Ah, welcome. And yeah, like I was saying, Friday the 13th, I always enjoy, even if it can be a bit tricksy at times. I was born on the 13th myself. So it is one of the codes, shall we say, one of the many codes that I carry. And I felt it was only right to start sharing. Well, Finn is now chewing on his horn, my glamorous canine assistant. Thank you. And yes, I just wanted to really offer an opportunity to connect in together on this topic of awakening the feminine and awakening the feminine voice in particular. And I felt that today was the right day to share that. There's a day of Venus on a Friday, and the number 13 is very much a sacred number in many lineages, particularly both the ones that I work with, the Mayan, which links very nicely with Cacao, as well as the Celtic calendar as well, and many calendars that have followed the natural timing and the natural cycle of the 13 moons. So traditionally, a year would have been 13 moon cycles. And at some point, the patriarchy took the decision to muck about with the timing and come up with this made-up Gregorian calendar that pushes us into the very linear pattern of 7 days a week, 9 to 5, 30-day days, or 30-day months, 28-day months, 31-day months, who knows? Instead of the 28-day month, which obviously follows the cycle of the moon. And so one of the things that I very much focus on in my life is by living by natural time, living by the 13 moon cycle, living by the Celtic calendar as well as the Mayan calendar. And I find that an amazing life hack, shall we say, of actually allowing a lot more time to rest and digest, which also allows more time for creativity and productivity as well. And working with the natural cycles, it also allows for the ebb and the flows throughout the year-long process, throughout the different seasons, as well as through the different moon cycles too, and honoring the moon cycles as well of menstruation through that as well, which is something that I feel was part of the plan, who knows, of coming into this Gregorian calendar, was to, like I say, bring us into this linear way of being, where no matter what gender we are naturally cyclical beings. Whether we're menstruating, we're no longer menstruating, whether we are men as well, that are also affected by the women around us and their cycles and their wisdom that they carry. And men are also affected by the moon cycles, probably more on a mental and emotional level, perhaps on a spiritual level as well. And for women, we have the advantage of all of the above: the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual that is linked to the moon. And I felt it was very important, as there is an ongoing cycle, shall we say, of misinformation happening at the moment, of silencing of the feminine silencing of the matters that are actually very important for our survival on this planet as humanity. We're not here simply to work 9 to 5 in, quite frankly, what is a system of slavery. And slavery has never ended. It has simply changed. It's changed the face of it, shall we say. And it's, for me, it's very important to really reclaim that time for ourselves, to really tune in with the cycles of nature, with the cycles of our bodies, our own natural rhythms. And one way that I have found very helpful for that as a guide has been Mama Cacao, and I'll share a little bit more about her in a bit. And what I see happening at this time, in addition to the misinformation and the silencing, is the literal covering of our faces, of our mouths, which links to our speech, which links to the throat chakra, which also links to our freedom of expression, which is one of our fundamental rights as humans. And the voice of the feminine comes in the more subtle ways. And it takes building that trust with yourself and building up the connection with the heart. So if you feel the throat is like the gateway between the mind and the heart, that if there is a blockage, shall we say, around our expression, it also means it causes a bottleneck in our system. Now, I can get quite sidetracked with weaving different threads together from science and the vagus nerve and how that affects us on a physical level. And to me, and maybe in your own experience as well, you will have started to realize, maybe just now or maybe sooner, or before that in your life, and especially in this time of great awakening that we're in, there's very little difference between what is energetic and what is physical. Everything that comes in the physical is a manifestation of something that has come before that, whether it's emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual. What is happening in the collective is simply a reflection of what's happening in the inner world. So that natural law, shall we say, as above, so below, as within, so without. And that is also the nature of the feminine that brings us more internal. That's like the new moon, the darkness of the new moon, or the darkness of the winter months, which we're starting to come into more of the yin aspect, shall we say, the feminine aspect of the year that we're coming into now, coming into the autumn and the winter time. It is more about slowing down and really listening. And one aspect of that is, how do we walk and live in the beauty way? And for me, that is always keeping at a pace that I can stay present with. So when you imagine yourself going for a walk, or the next time that you go for a walk, can you feel the feet connecting with the earth? Can you hear the sounds of the birds around you, of the movement and the rustling in the bushes, the wind in the trees, and the little mushrooms that are starting to pop up now at this time of the year from the soil, the flowers? Just noticing like anything around rather than just charging on, listening to something on your iPhone or whatever. Actually really tuning in and listening also to the body. And the body is an electromagnetic field in itself, interacting with the electromagnetic field of this planet. And each tree and each being has its own electromagnetic field. So there's always a communication happening constantly. It's always moving, it's always changing. And that's within the body as well. And the body is also representation of the feminine. Again, this is regardless of gender. I want to make that very, very clear, that the feminine is a quality, and the quality that lies within us all, lies within all beings, and it lies within the elements as well. Even the elements within themselves are always having a dance between the masculine and the feminine. That is the dance of life itself. And if you get really tuned in, you may even hear the sounds of the land, the spirits of the land, the song of the sea, how even in the air, the sound changes through every day, through the seasons. The acoustics change as there's trees in full leaf versus the trees that have the falling leaves and the trees that are bare. The sound of the rivers, the streams will always be changing. They have their own song. And certainly I can say I'm here in Ireland, the folk songs are very much songs from this land, and even our language, our native tongue, our mother tongue is like a song. It's connected with the land. And you can really, when you get really quiet inside, you can tune in to songs of the spirits of the land, as well as the songs of the birds, as well as the songs of the trees. So this is where you would hear the bodhrán, you would hear the tin whistle, would be reflecting those sounds, and the fiddle as well. Now, I will say that I think there might have been a wee bit too much alcohol involved with some of the folk songs, so they got a wee bit sidetracked off the core, shall we say, resonance of what they were tuning into. However, the essence is still there, and you can feel it. There's a resonance to it. It has an impact on your body and how your body and the cells of your body are moving with that music. And that's what sound is all about. That's what words are as well. They all have a specific resonance, as do we. And sound is one of the most powerful ways of coming back into what we would call coherence. And coherence is the connection between the mind and the heart. Are we in alignment? Are we really speaking from a place of loving truth? Or are we just gurgling from the mind? And babies and children and animals are very, very tuned into this. So some of my greatest teachers, in fact, my greatest teachers have been, and I'm very, very grateful for the elders and for my human teachers, as well as those beyond human as well. Dogs and horses have been my biggest teachers from a very young age. Horses can tune in a millisecond if you're in coherence or not. So if the horse is acting up, it's very likely it's because your emotions are acting up. You're not presenting authentically. They can tell what's going on underneath the surface. Same with children, same with dogs. And there's a reason when we hear a certain piece of music, or we work with chanting or toning, mantras, that resonance has an impact on our electromagnetic field, has an impact on soothing the nervous system, bringing us back into the parasympathetic nervous system, helping to calm the vagus nerve, which again is connecting from the brain right down through the body and through the central channel. And this central channel also in many, many traditions is in existence. So in Sanskrit, it would be the Sushumna. It's essentially the core light, or the flute that we have that goes all the way down the spine and the central nervous system. And so when we bring our vagus nerve back into opening up and operating in a healthy way, then we come back into coherence and we're able to communicate freely, rather than communicating from a survival mode or a fight or flight mode, or communicating from a reaction that we're having to a situation rather than a response. And you will know as well from tuning in with nature that Mother Earth is very much speaking to us at the moment, with a lot of the flooding, with a lot of the fires, with earthquakes. And I feel that is also part of this aspect of the mind overrunning the body, the mind overrunning nature. That we have created too much from the mind, rather than living in coherence, living in harmony, living in alignment with nature, which is ourselves as nature as well. That we have created a separation between ourselves and nature. And that comes very much into play at this particular time that we're in, where we know that the crisis that we truly face is that we are operating from a place of trauma. We're operating from a survival mode, and we are ignoring the signals around us from Mother Earth that we have an imbalance in our climate, in our ecosystems. And that is having a direct impact on us as the systems that were manufactured are falling away. And what I would say with that is the colonial systems as well. And here in Ireland, we have only 2% of our native trees remaining. And we only have 2% of native speakers of our mother tongue. That is no coincidence. We are people of the land. Our bodies are made up of this land, of the soil and the flesh. We are not separate. And the more we can allow ourselves to tune in, the more that we can become guardians once again of the land in which we're living. We learn, pardon me, because that's a colonial term as well. We remember why we're here. We remember what's being asked of us, because we're able to listen fully, that receptivity of the feminine. So I wanted to explain a little bit about the process of Dieta and what that is about, and how does that help us to awaken the voice of the feminine. So I'm very grateful to have spent time in various dietas, some in the jungle, in the Amazon, particularly with the Shipibo tradition. And some have been with native plants here in Scotland and in Ireland, which are the native plants to the Celtic lands of Britain and of much of Europe as well. And my time with the Shipibo taught me how to connect deeper into my own roots, because that was my intention, was to connect to my own lineage, my own roots, and to connect to elders. And that's something that we have lost, well, seemingly lost in our society, are true elders. However, the elders, our ancestors, are also the plants, are also the trees, they're also the animals and the stones and the rivers and the oceans and the land that has been here for far longer than we little human beings have been. And the process of Dieta allows that going inwards. So in some ways, it can be a process of stripping everything back and getting back to basics and the simplicity of life. On a deeper level, in the jungle, it means total isolation. That means a very limited diet. And it means coming into communion with a particular plant for a period of time, so that you come into a merging with that plant. You come into harmony with that plant and begin to receive the healing from that plant that's needed, whether it's an emotional level, physical, mental, spiritual, or all of them. And if you're really devoted, you will also receive songs from those plants that can allow you to communicate with the plants, but also to share those songs and what they're called in the Peruvian and South American traditions are icaros, which are healing songs. And they have a particular resonance. And what that has helped me open up to has also been the songs of the plants and the trees here in Ireland, and have been coming through more as what I would call the goof, which is the Gaelic mantra, which is something we'll be sharing here during this Dieta as well. I'm not asking you to go into the jungle or put yourself in a hut and eat very little and don't see anyone, you don't speak to anyone, nothing. No TV, no social media, no mobile phones, nothing. Just you and nature and the plant. That's not very realistic in our modern world. So I'm very grateful to have worked with a mentor that has helped me a lot, Padma Chandra, some of you will know her, and assisted as well in some more gentle dietas. And I began my journey with cacao, mama cacao, ish cacao, with a healing dieta as well when I was going through a period of transition. So what that means in modern terms is just creating a specific period of time to allow ourselves to plug in again. It's a little bit like taking all the threads and all these distractions that we've got going on and grabbing the plug out of the socket of the matrix and plugging it back into the roots, back into the soil and into source. And that can be by just limiting your social media use, Netflix and all those common distractions for just 13 days, not forever. And limiting your time around certain people, particularly any toxic situations and that kind of thing. So what that really helps us with is to realize what's really important. What are the connections that really nourish us and support us, and what needs to be let go of? And it also allows us time to come into that, what I keep saying, of that coherence and the deep listening of, well, what is actually really being asked of me at this time, especially at a time when there's so much confusion, so much chaos. That is often the time that we need to actually come back in, pause, reflect, and then we have much more to share from there. You know yourself when you've come to a point where you're feeling very drained, that it's time to fill the cup. And when someone is sharing from a more full cup, an overflowing cup, it really comes from a sense of joy rather than a sense of duty. And it allows a creative expression to flow. And that inspires people around as well. That there's a different way of being rather than getting lost in the dross of doing. And so when coming in with Mama Cacao, I have to say the best word to describe it is it can be really yummy. What better than to take time out in each day to really connect with Mama Cacao, which is not only very tasty, is also a heart awakener. She awakens us also to the joy and to the bliss of life. And when we open up to the flow of our hearts and open up to the flow of the feminine essence within us, we get to re-heart and remember a different way of living, of being, and of speaking, and of voicing what's real, what's true, what's in our hearts. So it can affect our relating as well. Very much so. I find that through Mama Cacao, she has really helped me to ground into the body and to enjoy the body and appreciate and love the body much more. And we are here to enjoy ourselves and enjoy all facets of life. So she can help us to really allow yourselves to be held and to feel what we need to feel in order to move through it and let it go. For when we don't allow ourselves to feel, which is also the feminine aspect of ourselves, then again, it comes to this bottleneck where we're not really truly expressing ourselves. So you'll know yourself when you are around someone or are in a room. Again, it comes back to the sense of the electromagnetic fields. If someone's feeling off or angry, shall we say, or anything that they're not expressing, you can feel it. And it's totally okay to be feeling angry or grumpy or whatever it is that it might be in that moment, because it is just a moment. It's emotion. It's meant to be moving in motion, emotion. when we don't allow that to move, that's what creates the blocks in our system. That's what creates illness. That's what also can then come across as resentment in our communication and in our relating as well. And again, this is in all genders, and it's the more that we become more aware of that within ourselves, we develop more love, more compassion for ourselves, and that which Mama Cacao can really help us to guide us gently back into, the more that we can hold that for others around us as well and show them the way. So I'm sure that it's very clear in these times as well that you cannot tell somebody what to do or what is best for them. You can only know what is best for you in any moment. And we're really sharing from that place of love and compassion. We can see another in their pain, in their anger, in their frustration, whatever it may be that they're feeling at that time. But we also realize that it's not for us to take on. And that's where the healthy boundaries aspect comes in as well. So Dieta also teaches us about that by realizing what doesn't serve us and what does, and what we need in order to trying to find the words for that. More of like a piece around the energy management and how to really take care of ourselves. And in taking care of ourselves, we're also taking care of the other. So it helps to move into a space where we can let go of codependencies. We can let go of the need to please another, because we really find that connection within ourselves, that love and that rooting within ourselves, which also connects to our sovereignty. And a key with that sovereignty piece as well is coming into that authentic expression. And there's a very subtle attunement that comes when we come into this deeper connection with ourselves and with the voice of the feminine, that we can remember how to share truth and share clarity without the sharpness. So we can learn, like the sword of Bridget, that can cut right through the BS with love. And when we cut through with love, there is no fight. There is no need to defend. There is no polarity. Enough is enough. And that is the very same as when Mother Earth comes with a flood, with a fire, with an earthquake, that there's nothing more powerful than nature herself. So any manipulations of power, any games of the, shall we say, the victim and the perpetrator, the narcissist and the empath, all of those plays playing out, stop. And right now, I feel that it's a form of sacred activism to reclaim that for ourselves. And not just for ourselves, but for Mother Earth, for the animals, for the children, for those less fortunate, less privileged than we are. And if we are to evolve and awaken as humanity, we need to speak from that place, regardless of what may come. For that is just the play. That is not truth. So I've shared a lot, and there's much more I could share. But I would like to open up if there are any particular questions about what I have been sharing, or any particular questions about the process of Dieta, or what we'll be sharing as well. What does it look like when we're opening up the voice of the feminine? All is welcome. So if you wish to ask a question, if you go to the reactions, you can see that there is a raise hand function in Zoom. So please feel free to just raise your hand at any point. And there's something as well that's coming through about the importance of the sacred, importance of ceremony as well, which is part of what we'll be sharing over these 13 days, is in making space for the sacred in our lives. And what I found through sharing ceremonies with people when they're at home has been that gap closes between a ceremony is something that I go and do out there. A ceremony begins at home, in your kitchen, when you're brewing the sacred cacao. The greatest alchemy happens in the kitchen. And even my elder, Phillida, when we came into the whole lockdown, and she told me, it's great, I can share from my kitchen school and I don't need to go anywhere. She's 77. And so, particularly in Ireland, but in many, many, many homes, is the kitchen was where the action always was. That's where the magic really happened. And it's bringing it into this, like the sacred is in every day. It's in every moment. It's in every breath. It's in that walk that we're taking through nature when we're really listening to all that is around us, and the inspiration and the creation and the power of creation that's living within us and around us in every moment. And we have a word in Irish. The word in Irish for ritual simply means the nice everyday things. So a ritual can be you making your cup of coffee in the morning, or your cup of cacao in the morning. It can be just how you cook a certain meal, or how you come into the creative process of getting all your paints together and your canvas together, or you get this particular pen and this particular notepad to write your poetry. Whatever it is, how you set up to take your dog for the walk, or whatever. These are little rituals that we do in every moment, and how that makes it special is when we're coming into presence with it. So we're coming into that coherence again, and what I call the beauty way which is walking every moment at the pace that we can keep up with ourselves. And when we keep up with ourselves, there is no need to rush, there is no need to push, there's no need to pull. It is simply a way of breathing, of being in union with the moment. What's actually coming just now is I keep speaking of this reverence and resonance. I'd like to share a goof, which is a Gaelic mantra, to help us to really tune in rather than me just speaking. I'm hoping for a question at some point. And as I'm sharing this goof, just allow yourself to listen. Allow yourself to feel what's moving in the body. And just notice the subtle. Notice the changes in the nervous system, even the spiraling that may come. Open me, open me, open me. Sha. The Oskalme is the Old Irish language. And the Old Irish language has a very close affinity with Sanskrit. And it also is originated from the Om, which is the language of the trees. We have 13 sacred trees for the 13 moon cycle of the year. And we have 20 Om. So each tree has its own unique sound, resonance. And even if you listen to the word Om, it's not very different from Om. And these ancient languages have an effect on the nervous system, on the brain, on our electromagnetic field, as well as bringing us back to the sacred, going beyond the chatter of the mind. So for those that may find it more challenging to let go of the mind chatter, is the toning, mantra, goof, or even chanting. Opens us back up into the heart, brings us back down into the heart. And another aspect of this opening to the voice is also the connection between the throat, between the jaw, between the mouth, and the pelvis, the opening of the pelvis, the opening of the womb, the opening of the yoni, or the root area as well. And when we look at the images of the vocal cords and we look at the images of the yoni. You can Google it afterwards if you want. They're the same. So our bodies are very clever. And when we come back into that language of our bodies, we come back into the language of nature. As nature is the most clever design, and nature is the most, let's say, glorious artiste as well. And so when we reclaim this connection with nature, with the body, with the landscape, even my throat's going now, we can feel more supported. We can feel more life and vitality within. So that this life and vitality that is available to us in any moment and this, sometimes I find that when there's a feeling of exhaustion or a feeling of tiredness, it can often be because there's not enough life moving through us. There's not enough chi. And by just simply allowing ourselves to move, to sound, to express, we can awaken, we can enliven ourselves again. So really this is an invitation to play, to explore, and to enjoy all that life has to offer us, all that nature has to offer us. And with the guidance of Mama Cacao, which is the heart blood of the earth, and this wonderful tree medicine that can help us to come back into that alignment and that resonance, and the softening in to the body, into the belly, into the womb space, whether it's a physical womb or whether it's etherical womb or cosmic womb that we all, regardless of gender, have access to. That womb space is the power of creation. That womb space is the void in which the first sound of creation came from, the Om. And some of you that have worked with me before, particularly with Mama Cacao, is that Om is made of very yummy sounds, with good reason. Ah, ooh, ah, ooh, It's the ah, ooh, One aspect of that as well is there's coming in a sense of that wild abandon of allowing ourselves that pleasure that is already in existence. That pleasure, that bliss, that joy is available to us always, for they're a state of being. And I have found through experience as well that it is a very key aspect of moving through more difficult patterns, moving through our shadow aspects of ourselves, moving through our trauma as well, is to actually allow ourselves to soften and open up to the healing that is available to us through pleasure. And within a sacred container such as this, within your own sacred space, where nobody can hear you or see you, but with Mama Cacao there, with her warm embrace, holding you, and little by little, that we can come back to remember and to re-heart and to allow ourselves to enjoy the life that we have really come to live, regardless of what external circumstances are around. That we can move through anything with this connection to the power of creation that lives within us. And there was something that came to me recently which felt important to share, for women in particular, was that a powerful woman does not hold a position of power. She is held by the power that holds her. And that is the power of nature, the power of creation itself. So that feels like a nice space to come to completion. And I've got this feeling with you all there, sitting in your living rooms, that I would love to just curry in, as we would say in Scotland, and have a wee chat. But if you do have any questions that come that you didn't feel you wanted to ask here in this space, then please just drop a wee email. I'd be very, very happy to hear from you. And what I'll do also is I'll send out the recording to both those that have joined us live and those that signed up for the recording as well. And you'll find the link for the voice, the Awakening the Feminine Voice Dieta, also on my website, firetreealchemy.com. And we start on Thursday the 19th of August for 13 days. And I forgot to mention that it is during the yellow star wave spell in the Mayan calendar. My Mayan sign is a yellow star. And what that is all about is radiating beauty, art, and allowing ourselves to shine. So that when we shine, we allow others to shine with us. No holds barred. So I leave you with that and the fire of Mama Cacao in our hearts. That the more that we shine, the more that we can allow others to shine also. And boy, do we need that right now. So I will say goodbye for now and stop the recording. And thank you.